हुन्छ नि अब स्टार्ट गर्दा हुन्छ नि
स्टार्ट गरौँ
हुन्छ नि
So, good morning. Yesterday we discussed about physiology of normal labor and also the stages. So this is the continuation of normal labor, and today we'll discuss about another important part of normal labor, that is mechanism of labor, which is asked very frequently in your examination and also in your viva. And we'll also discuss how to use or how to fill a partograph. Okay. So the objectives are to define mechanism of labor, normal labor, describe the cardinal movements in mechanism of labor, how to diagnose true labor and how to differentiate it from false labor, how to approach to a case of labor, how to take history and do examination and use a partograph. So first of all, how to define mechanism of labor? What is mechanism of labor? It is just the adaptation or changes in positions in the fetal presenting part, which is usually the head, during passage in maternal birth canal to adjust in different diameters of pelvis. Although this definition looks a bit complicated, it is very simple. Like the diameters of pelvis are different in inlet and outlet. For that, you should know the anatomy of the pelvis, and I think you already had class on bony pelvis, so you know the different diameters of inlet and outlet. I'll not describe that today. And the fetal head passes through that inlet and comes out through the outlet, so it has to change its position because of the difference in the diameters. So this is just the changes in position of the fetal head during passage through the bony pelvis. This is just a summary of cardinal movement of mechanism of labor. We'll describe it one by one later. So this is the movement of fetal head that allows it to pass through the birth canal. If there is no cardinal movement, the fetal head cannot be delivered because it will get stuck in the in somewhere in the cavity or in the outlet. So first of all, what happens is engagement, which occurs in one of the oblique diameter or transverse diameter of pelvic inlet. And then there is continuous descent of fetal head in the birth passage. There is sustained flexion of the fetal head over the fetal body. And when vertex is at the level of ischial spine, the occiput of fetal head rotates anteriorly to lie beneath the symphysis pubis to adjust in the different diameter of pelvis. That is known as internal rotation. Then with further descent, there is crowning of fetal head. That means when the fetal head does not recede back even after contraction is over, that is, it's continuously visible at the introitus of the mother. Then the fetal head is delivered by extension in the neck. Then after delivery of fetal head, there is restitution. That means untwisting of the fetal neck, which occurred during internal rotation, so that occiput goes back to its original position. After that, external rotation occurs, which is passive movement of fetal head due to internal rotation of anterior shoulder inside the pelvis. After that, delivery of anterior shoulder occurs, followed by delivery of posterior shoulder. Then rest of the body is delivered by lateral flexion. This is just a glimpse of the cardinal movements of mechanism of labor. Now we'll discuss in detail one by one. Okay, so how engagement occurs, or first of all, what is engagement of fetal head. That is when the biparietal diameter, that is the largest transverse diameter of the fetal head, passes through the plane of pelvic inlet. So biparietal diameter has to go through the plane of the pelvic inlet to say that fetal head is engaged. Okay? It can occur in late pregnancy, in case of primigravida, or only during labor in multigravida. So which diameter of fetal head gets engaged in the pelvis? Okay? That is known as engaging diameter of fetal head. And in vortex presentation with full flexion of fetal head over the chest, the suboccipitobregmatic diameter, that is 9.4 centimeter, or in some book you'll find 9.5 centimeter. This is the engaging diameter of fetal head which enters the inlet of pelvis. Okay. Again, which diameter of maternal pelvis allows the fetal head to get engaged? That is known as diameter of engagement. So remember these two. Engaging diameter is in the fetal head, whereas diameter of engagement is in the maternal pelvis. So when engagement occurs, these two diameters should coincide. Okay? So maternal pelvis diameter of engagement is one of the oblique diameter, right or left oblique diameter, or in transverse diameter of inlet of maternal pelvis. Okay? So you can see here, this is the suboccipitobregmatic diameter. Bregma is the anterior fontanelle, and this is the occiput. Okay, just beneath the occiput is subocciput. So this is suboccipitobregmatic diameter, 9.5 centimeter. It enters the brim. This is the pelvic brim. This is coronal section. Okay. And this is known as sinciput. The bregma is also known as sinciput, okay, and posterior fontanelle is occiput. So engaging diameter in vortex presentation is, this is the suboccipitobregmatic diameter. In full flexion, you can see that the fetal chin is touching the chest. Clinically, the head is assumed to be engaged in the pelvis when only 2/5 or less of the head is palpable per abdomen. So by abdominal examination and by vaginal examination, we will know that the head is engaged. Okay. So when we palpate the fetal head in the abdomen, it should be palpable less than 2/5. Okay. Before that, it is not assumed to be engaged. And when we do vaginal examination, the fetal presenting part or head is at the zero station. Zero station is at the level of ischial spine. We can feel the ischial spine laterally when we do vaginal examination. So at least it should be at the zero station, or at the level of ischial spine, or even below that. So how we assess the fetal descent of head? By abdominal palpation. Okay? So if this line is the pelvic brim and this is above the pelvic brim, we can palpate the fetal head 5/5. If we divide the fetal head in 5 centimeter, okay, so 5/5, all of the head is palpable above the pelvic brim. This is not engaged or free head. Okay, here the fetal head is freely mobile when we do pelvic grip. Okay, so this is completely above the pelvic brim, not engaged. Here it has descended slightly below the pelvic brim, and you can palpate the fetal head 4/5. 1/5 has gone below the pelvic brim, and 4/5 is palpable in the abdomen. So this is also not engaged. This is the suboccipitobregmatic diameter. Okay, here you can see 3/5 of the fetal head is palpable above, and 2/5 has entered the pelvic brim. Okay, so if this occiput is descending and sinciput is rising, because there is more and more flexion, and chin is going to touch the chest. Okay, at this time sinciput is easily felt, occiput is little bit felt because it is going towards the pelvic brim. Here you can feel both sinciput and occiput. Okay, now this is the important part. Okay, where the head is just engaged. Occiput has entered, okay, because suboccipito-bregmatic diameter has entered the pelvic brim. This line is pelvic brim. Here, the sinciput is easily felt, okay, and occiput is just felt, okay, or even it may not be felt, okay. This is 2/5 of fetal head is only palpable when we do abdominal examination, and this is the time when we say that head is engaged, and this head is not movable when we palpate, okay, and it has further descended, okay, when only the sinciput is felt and occiput should not be felt, okay. So only 1/5 of the fetal head is palpable above the pelvic brim, and 4/5 has gone inside the pelvic brim, okay. Here you cannot feel any fetal head, okay, because whole of this fetal head has gone inside the pelvic cavity. So none of the fetal head, this is only the face is palpable, and none of the fetal head is palpable above the pelvic brim. So to know the head engagement by abdominal examination needs a lot of experience, because you will not know how many fifth of fetal head is palpable without your experience. Now, when we do PV examination, we take the reference of ischial spine as for the station. Station means the level of fetal head in the pelvis. Okay, so these are the different levels of fetal head. So when the head is or biparatal diameter is at the level of ischial spine, we say that head is at 0 station. Okay, if it is above the level of ischial spine, then it is at -1 station. 1 centimeter above the ischial spine is -1 station or -2 station. If it is high above, then we cannot even touch the fetal head. Okay, so up to -3 we say we document in the station, and when it is below the level of ischial spine, okay, it is at the level of the station is +1, and below is +2 or +3, and below that the head is visible in the introitus. Okay, so the head must get engaged in the pelvic cavity to get delivered. Okay? And there are some causes of non-engagement of head. In these conditions, the normal delivery is not possible. So first of all, when there is disproportion between the head and pelvis, that is known as cephalopelvic disproportion, where the pelvis is very small or abnormal pelvis, or the head is very big, fetus is very big, is macrosomia. If the head only is big, that is hydrocephalus. In this condition, head will not enter the pelvic cavity and head will not get engaged. Okay, this question is frequently asked. That's why I have kept this. Okay, and in case of placenta previa, where the placenta is occupying the lower segment of the uterus, there is less space, so head may not get engaged. Similarly, transverse lie means the shoulder of the fetal head fetus is entering, so it cannot get engaged because it is too broad. And similarly, in case of oblique lie, it will not get engaged. And deflexed head, that means there is no full flexion of the head, so that vortex will not present, and there may be other presentations. Okay, deflexed head will not get engaged. Similarly, malposition or malpresentation of the fetal head, like the brow presentation, face presentation when the chin is posterior, and similarly shoulder presentation. If there is big fibroid uterus at lower part of the uterus, then also the space is less and fetal head will not get engaged. Similarly, big ovarian tumors, or even in some of the cases of multiple pregnancy, the fetal head does not get engaged and it may not be delivered. Now, the fetal descent. fetal head descent. That is the continuous process throughout labor, and the fetal presenting part goes down and down in the birth canal. Okay? So fetal head continuously passes down so that it gets delivered. The greatest rate of descent occurs during the deceleration phase of first stage of labor and also in second stage of labor. Now flexion. The engagement, descent, and flexion are actually the parts of same movement. Okay, it will not occur separately. They occur simultaneously. At the same time, the fetal head is flexed. It is descending, and it gets engaged when it crosses the pelvic brim. Okay? When there is full flexion, the mentum of the fetus is close to the thorax. That means chin is touching the chest. That is flexion. Why it should be flexed for delivery? It facilitates the presentation of smallest possible diameter, that is suboccipitobregmatic diameter, 9.5 centimeter, of the fetal head to the birth canal. When there is no full flexion, this diameter will be increased and it cannot enter the pelvis. Okay. So these are the positions. Okay, this is the maternal thigh. Okay, and this is the fetal head in the pelvic cavity. Okay, the mother is in the lithotomy position. Okay, so these are the different positions of occiput in the maternal pelvis. So this triangular one is occiput. This quadrangular is the anterior fontanelle. So when the occiput is in anterior position, then it is known as direct occipito-anterior. This is towards the symphysis pubis. This is towards the sacrum. Okay. So this is one position. This is another position. Okay, where the occiput is towards the sacrum. This is known as direct occipito-posterior. All right. So you may ask me that why we take the reference of occiput for the position. That is because only occiput is palpable when we do PV examination, and this sinciput or anterior fontanelle is not palpable. Okay, so these are the transverse position. This is right occipito transverse position, where occiput you can feel in the right side of the mother, because the mother is in the opposite to us. This is the right side, this is the left side. Okay. When occiput is in the left side, this is left occipito transverse position. And when occiput is in left lower quadrant or left posterior quadrant, this is left occipito posterior. This is right occipito posterior. This is left occipito anterior, and this is right occipito anterior. This may not be very clear to you because this border is very faint here. All these things need to be demonstrated in the model for clear understanding. So don't worry if you don't understand it fully. Okay, just to have the concept right now is enough for you. Now, this is another important movement of the fetal head that is known as internal rotation. It occurs while the fetal head is descending in the pelvic cavity. All these, this mechanism of labor, this will be taken in your tutorial class during your posting also, where we will demonstrate it in such type of model. Okay, maternal pelvis and fetal head, dummy fetus. Okay, so what happens in internal rotation is rotation of fetal head moves the occiput anteriorly towards the symphysis pubis. This is the occiput of fetal head, and it from transverse or oblique position, it moves towards the symphysis pubis. Okay, so now after complete internal rotation, the position of fetal head is direct occipito anterior. Okay, OA. And because of this rotation, there is slight twisting of the neck, because shoulder does not rotate at the same time. And it starts when vertex reaches the level of ischial spine of the mother. Okay? Due to the difference in shape of the pelvis in inlet and outlet, and the resistance of pelvic floor musculature, there is contraction of the levator ani when the head hits it, because the property of muscle is such that whenever it is hit by any hard object, it contracts. And because of the direction of the muscle fibers, it will facilitate the rotation of occiput from one of the oblique or transverse diameter to anterior position. Okay. After complete internal rotation, this sagittal suture will be in the midline. Okay, otherwise it will be in oblique diameter or in the transverse diameter. Okay. After internal rotation also, the fetal head continues to descend in the pelvis. And when does crowning occur? It actually occurs when biparietal diameter of fetal head has crossed the level of obstetric outlet or the level of ischial spine. Ischial spine is very easy to remember. Similar to engagement. Engagement is biparietal diameter of fetal head has crossed the inlet or pelvic brim. But in case of crowning, biparietal diameter of fetal head has crossed the level of ischial spine. Then how do we know that fetal head has crowned? Fetal head is visible at introitus and it does not recede back even after contraction is over. Until and unless crowning has occurred, the fetal head is visible during the contraction and it goes back when contraction is over. Okay, but when crowning has occurred, it does not recede back. It is all the time visible in the maternal introitus, vulval introitus, during contraction and even after contraction is over. Okay, so this crowning is very important. After crowning has occurred, we are sure that this baby is going to be delivered vaginally. Otherwise, we are not still sure. Now, after crowning, the delivery of fetal head should occur. So there is extension of fetal head in the neck. So occiput moves towards the back. During flexion, occiput is chin was touching the chest, but in extension, occiput moves backwards towards the fetal back. It occurs when the fetal head reaches the level of vulval introitus. Yeah? It brings the base of the occiput into contact with the inferior margin of symphysis pubis. So during extension, the occiput slowly goes back to touch the back. Okay. And the delivery of fetal head occurs when it changes from flexed to extended position. Okay. And it curves, the neck will curve under and past the pubic symphysis. You have to see the picture and you have to see in the model to understand this fully. So here you can see the process of extension. Here till here, the fetal head is flexing and then it will start gradually extending. So that occiput will go back. Here you can see the fetal neck has extended and the fetal head is delivered by extension. Now after delivery of the fetal head is free and now it will untwist the twist on the neck which occurred during internal rotation. So that after restitution, occiput of fetus and the fetal spine lies in the same plane. There is no twist. Okay, this is the correction of the twisting of the neck. Now, external rotation is the passive movement of fetal head due to internal rotation of this biacromial diameter. This is the diameter of shoulder, which is which has come in the anterior posterior diameter of maternal pelvis. So don't get confused between these all these diameters. When you see in the model, you will clearly understand what it is. Okay, and due to internal rotation of this shoulder, there is passive movement of the head, because head has to rotate when there is shoulder rotation. Okay, and after this external rotation, one shoulder is anterior behind the pubic symphysis and other is posterior towards the sacrum. So fetus lies in lateral position. Okay? So this is external rotation of the head, right? Because of this shoulder coming in the AP diameter of the maternal pelvis. Okay, this is sagittal section. So because of rotation of the shoulder, the fetal head will passively move. This is not the active movement of fetal head. Now, after external rotation, further descent brings the anterior shoulder to the level of the pubic symphysis. Okay, so anterior shoulder is delivered under the symphysis pubis, followed by posterior shoulder, and rest of the body is quickly delivered by lateral flexion. All these movements, cardinal movements of mechanism of labor, occur very quickly after crowning and delivery of the head. Sometimes most of the time, you will not notice what has occurred, but you will see when the fetal head is being delivered, occiput is towards one of the mother's thigh, right or left, and fetal face is facing towards another thigh. So you can imagine how the fetal head is delivered. Okay. So this is the summary of figures. Here the fetal head is floating before engagement. Okay, this is the symphysis pubis and fetal head is above. Okay, here the occiput is this suboccipitobregmatic diameter is in one of the oblique diameter of the maternal pelvis. Okay, and after that there is engagement. So fetal head is below the level of pubic symphysis, and this diameter is still in the one of the oblique diameter, suboccipito diameter. So engagement, flexion, and descent has occurred. There is further descent, and here the internal rotation is starting, so that occiput is going towards the symphysis pubis, and this sagittal diameter of the fetal head will be in the midline after completion of internal rotation. Okay, here you can see that there is complete rotation, and this is in the midline, right? And there is beginning of extension also. Here you can see there is complete extension. Fetal head is going to be in the process of being delivered. So you can see the head is being extended beneath the symphysis pubis, and there is restitution here. Okay, so occiput is going back to its original position, right? Here it has rotated, and here it is going back to its original position. So occiput and back is in the same line, right? Here you can see there is delivery of anterior shoulder, and this head is already free, and there is delivery of posterior shoulder after this, and rest of the body will be delivered by lateral flexion, right? So this figure is very important. Now, after we have just finished the mechanism of labor, how the fetal head descends, engages, and how it changes its position in the pelvic cavity, and how it is delivered through the pelvic outlet. Okay, so now we'll discuss something about labor. Okay, labor is not a disease; it is a physiological process, and even then, you have to know the symptoms of labor, signs of labor, how to examine, how to take history, because diagnosis and confirmation of labor is very important. And also not only the diagnosis that patient is in labor or not, also the stage and phase of labor is important, whether she is in first stage of labor, whether she is in latent phase or active phase of labor, whether she is in second stage of labor. All this proper diagnosis is very important, and also to assess the descent and engagement of the fetus. Okay, and it is also important to identify the presentation of fetus and position of the fetus. Okay, because incorrect diagnosis of labor in any stage can lead to unnecessary anxiety and interventions. So how to suspect or anticipate labor? When there is the woman complains of intermittent abdominal pain, you have to immediately suspect that whether she is in labor, and even so, if there is associated hardening of the uterus. Okay? And labor, we say that labor has occurred when she has crossed the gestation of viability. So after 28 weeks of gestation, if she complains of intermittent abdominal pain along with hardening of the uterus, you should suspect or you should anticipate labor in this woman. And if there is blood-stained mucus discharge, that is known as show discharge of show per vagina, that is also suggestive of diagnosis of labor. And if she complains of watery vaginal discharge due to rupture of the membrane or amniotic sac, there is continuous leaking of this watery discharge or sudden gush of water per vagina, okay, breaking of water. All these three are suggestive of labor. But you have to do abdominal and vaginal examination to confirm the onset of labor only if there is cervical dilatation or opening of the cervical os and gradual increase in diameter of the cervical opening in centimeter. You can confirm the onset of labor. If the cervix is closed, she is not in labor. And along with dilatation, there should be effacement or progressive shortening and thinning of the cervix. These two are sure signs of onset of labor. So here yesterday also we discussed this figure. So here the cervix is closed, although you can see small gap here. The cervix is long. Okay, it's not effaced. Head is high, and here the cervix is partly effaced. And effacement of cervix is expressed in terms of percentage. Here the cervix is full length. Here it is 50%. Okay, only 2 centimeters. So we say that this cervix is 50% effaced. Okay, partly effaced. And here you cannot feel any cervix. Here the cervix is fully effaced, but still it is not dilated. Okay. Here you can see the gap between the lips of the cervix has increased. So it is 3 centimeter dilated. And here it is only a small part of cervix is being felt. And it is 8 centimeter dilated and fully effaced. Right? So how do we approach to a case in labor?